You got this.
Cool. Good evening and welcome to the November 2021 edition of the Wheeling CCSD21 Board of Education. First order of business is to determine the quorum. Secretary,
Phil,
barely, but yes, here.
we're glad you're here. Debbie?
Here.
I am here. Stacy Allen?
Yes.
Arlen?
Here.
Phil?
Here.
Stacy?
Yes.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. If everyone would please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I appreciate everyone's indulgence. Sorry for the lateness. This is my belated Halloween costume. I am in costume for someone who's had laser treatment following eye surgery. It was supposed to have been about an hour and a half ago that it was completed. Unfortunately, the surgeon's office was backed up a bit, which meant that we were backed up a bit. So again, I appreciate everyone's indulgence. We will start with board communications. No, board communications, but we have a special presentation tonight.
We do. As part of board communications, we are very pleased to be able to really recognize a long-standing member of the District 21 family and her family and the giving back that they are going to be doing. So I'm going to turn it over to Michael so he can introduce the family and the program.
Good evening. We're honored tonight. Over the last couple of months, I've had a distinct pleasure of getting to know Linda and Eric, and there's a few more members of the family here. The Donna Steckley Memorial Educators Grant was established this year in 2021 with the mission to foster learning and invigorate classrooms of a new generation of teachers. The grant provides support to District 21 educators in their first 3 years of the career as they create a warm, welcoming, and stimulating learning environment. Donna had a passion for learning and teaching, and I know Phil and I talked a little bit today. He knew Donna. She cherished every year of her 25-year career in Wheeling School District 21, serving as library assistant at Jack London Middle School, as a secretary in the curriculum department at the administration center as well. When she passed in 2020, her family created this grant to carry on Donna's love of learning and compassion for helping new teachers. The grant is starting with $21,000 and some additional funds that have been raised by friends and family so far, with a target towards $3,000 per year for at least the first 7 years. The family reviewed applicants' proposals for use of the grant money in the first year, and we're excited by the enthusiasm, thought, and detail put into these proposals. Joining us tonight are Donna's children, Bill, Linda, and Janet, who all attended District 21. Also here tonight are some of Donna's grandchildren. If I could ask the family to come up and we can make the presentation of the check. That little one is cute.
This is my good side tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, we often talk about District 21 being a family, and I think this is a great example of someone with a long tenure, and not only herself, but through her children and grandchildren that have such a strong feeling for this community, this district. We certainly appreciated Donna's tenure here. I've been here 32 years, so I had a lot of overlapping years with Donna. I think, Arlen, you probably as well. So thank you all very much. It really means a lot to the district.
She was a wonderful lady, and we thank you for all your support.
Okay, that's a nice way to start our monthly meeting. Go into board communications at this point. NSSEO update, Deb?
Well, this month, as the Shining Stars was designated as the board, which we were all, it's like, yeah, it's not us. The staff and everyone over at NSSEO makes it easy, just like our staff here makes it easy to do our jobs. But it was highlighted with a lot of very touching videos from the students at the various facilities. So that was our highlight. We also talked about the Timber Ridge project, which is the elevator and gymnasium, which should be done by the end of the school year, by the end of the calendar year. There was actually one young man, a fifth grader, that interviewed the project manager for it. And the video should be available on the NSSEO website. It was just so cute. And this kid asked some hard questions, and this guy, he went right along with it. He had no clue what the questions were going to be beforehand. So that one was quite interesting. It's been a lot of fun watching how everything goes. And it takes 3 weeks for the elevator to be installed. It takes a lot longer than any of us were like, wow, it takes that long. But that should be done before the end of the year, and that'll be great. They are doing a food drive for a couple of their families over at Minor School. If anybody wanted to drop food off, or they could drop it at me and I can take it over. And lastly, I was curious, because NSSEO has specific training for the bus personnel. Will our bus drivers be involved with that at all? They do it every summer. Sorry, I just threw, because I was writing my stuff up today.
Right, so we do offer training for our bus drivers, particularly that are transporting students that are in our preschool programs and are, but that is through First Student. So, obviously the Regional Office of Education also, oversees bus driver training and credentialing in the area as well, so.
Right, okay, because I know they do a specialized training for their students. So I just wanted to put it out there and let you know about it.
Yep.
No, that's it then.
Okay, anybody have a question on Deb's report? Not, we'll move into EdRed and then into IESB. Bill?
Thank you, Phil. Quite a few things for EdRed here tonight. We had our annual joint meeting with the Northwest Suburban IASBO this past Friday. We received an interesting update from the forensic law firm. There were 3 highlights that I'd like to share. We received an update on the class action suit filed against 131 Illinois school districts on the mask and quarantine mandate issue. Without editorial comment, I will simply say that the Illinois Attorney General is currently attempting to move the lawsuit from Macoupin County to either Cook or Sangamon counties, and we'll see how that moves from there. Second, a law was passed by our General Assembly. Senate Bill 508 is a recapture bill and allows us to recapture property tax revenue lost to school districts when successful property tax appeals are adjudicated years after a given tax year by basically spreading the loss amount among property taxers of the current year, absent any action by the school board. This would be property tax revenue above and beyond that year. There would be an opportunity for boards to refuse to the recapture without hurting their base amount under PTEL. sometime well into the future, after we're past COVID and can accurately predict expenses and recovery costs, that's something we could possibly talk about. Additionally, it is likely we'll be seeing a late disbursement of upcoming property taxes, as the Cook County Board of Review is very far behind in its review and appeal process. It's also possible that lateness may cascade into following years. Talked to Michael about that for a moment, and the good news is, unlike in past years when the county has been late, we're unlikely, at least immediately, to start talking about borrowing money to meet our obligations, being in a better financial place. The next EdRed meeting will be held on December the 3rd, and the EdRed legislative dinner will be held on Monday, January 31st. There'll be more information on that to follow. And finally, yesterday, EdRed Executive Director Bridget Peach, and by the way, that's the same lady, she just got married. Congratulations to Bridget. And I met with Representative Jonathan Carroll. In addition to telling us about a dyslexia bill that he's currently filing, he advised me as to his support of our community center plan, and he would love to attend the groundbreaking. And that's it for the EdRed report. And if you give me a moment, I'll move straight into IASB.
I'm looking forward actually to the January 31st legislative dinner. It's been quite a number of years due to my IASB obligations, probably at least 6 to 8 years that I have not been able to attend because we've been out in Washington. So I'm looking very much forward to being in town for that in 2022.
Good. And as long as the EdRed notes were, the IASB notes are much shorter. To update the discussion from last month on the IASB NSBA Rift, as of now, 6 states have terminated membership in NSBA, and 11 others, excluding Illinois, are currently considering doing so. It is a topic that will be taken up by our board of directors during the conference. And that's it.
Do you know, do you have which states have?
If you give me a second, I might have some of it for you. I just need to get
I
to
know
an email here.
Pennsylvania was first. I think Missouri followed them. I'm not sure who else had already left.
No, the information I was given did not include the names of the specific states.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Bill. Anybody have any questions on either of those reports? All right, thank you very much. Mr. Gould, North Cook.
Yeah, nothing at North Cook. I do want to acknowledge that today is Veterans Day. December 7th, 1941, my cousin Arthur Gould, who I never got to know, was on the West Virginia at Pearl Harbor. And he went down with that ship. He was the chief radio man. And so I never got to know Arthur. Then several months later, my other cousin passed away at the Battle of Leyte with General Douglas MacArthur. And so today I just want to remember and honor all of those who have worn the uniform, because our democracy starts with those in uniform. And I want to thank them for their service, especially for all of those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice defending this country. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you. Well spoken, well said. Let's see. Jessica, anything?
Nothing truly revelatory. I attended a webinar this past week sponsored by one of our school law firms as an update for attorneys on student discipline. And not only was it an excellent refresher, but it was a point of acknowledgement during the webinar that our statistics on student discipline are wildly skewed because of students being out of school, but with them back in, it's certainly an acknowledgement that we have a breadth of opportunities to address the rise in student misconduct with all the opportunities that are available in law now, instead of simply resorting to exclusionary discipline. I think that's probably something we're going to be talking about pretty regularly, over the next year or so. And then on a fun note, I would just like to note that I'll be at the Wheeling Park District Hot Chocolate Walk Saturday morning. I know it's not going to be great weather, but it should be a lot of fun. And I'm grateful to our park district for putting on yet another awesome program as we get into winter.
Thank you, Jessica. Stacy?
Nothing.
Stacy?
Nothing.
The only other thing that I have, we had a nice communication from our high school district 214. I can't read it very well. Did you want to summarize that for us, Mike?
Sure. So we received a letter from Dr. Schuler, the superintendent, who was really thanking District 21 for being part of a partnership to host and mentor and support students in their teacher pipeline program, their education-related work-based learning experience. And so we've been part of that program for I believe 3 years at least. Maybe we may have gone into it my first year here, so that would be 4. And we really enjoy having them, and we know more now than ever. It's really important to be ensuring that we are refreshing the pipeline of young students moving into education if they are so inclined to do so. So we're just really glad to be part of the program. And Dr. Childress is actually at the 214 board meeting right now because they had invited us to come to be recognized as part of the partnership. So she is representing the board at 214 this evening.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Unfortunately, 214's board meetings and ours are on the same night. So board members and superintendent were not able to attend, but I'm glad that Beatrice was able to do so. With that, we'll move into staff communications. Mike?
So I want to start off by recognizing that November contains a special day for elected school board members, well, for all school board members, elected or appointed. It is the School Board Members Recognition Day, and that is on the, help me out, the 15th? Is that right? Yeah, so November 15th is the official day. So because you are so well compensated in the work that you do, we felt like all we could add to your loads of compensation was a little bit of District 21 swag. So we have a little bit of have a hat there for you with the District 21 logo, and some little chocolates should you get a mite peckish as the evening goes on. But bottom line is that, and I think more and more, anybody who is watching sees the real commitment that must be given to be an effective member of a school board. And I think that this community should be very proud of the 7 members of this board and the work, dedication, and really love for the children and families of this district that you all show. It is a thankless job. No one will ever be able to convince me otherwise. And it is deeply appreciated, not only from the standpoint of knowing that we have 7 committed members of our community that are really, your sole purpose is to do right by our kids and to do right by your constituents, but also willing to stick it out in some pretty tough times. So I thank you on behalf of myself, our staff, our students, and the community at large, and looking forward to working with you in the days, weeks, months, and years to come. So congratulations and happy School Board Day.
Thank you so much.
Can I add something real quick?
Sure.
About 2-3 weeks ago, I was texting with Becky, my eldest, who is majoring in psychology and minoring in education. She wants to be a professor. And one of her classes this term is society and education. And they were having a discussion one day about school boards. And they would be talking about stuff, and she's just sitting there answering all these questions. And they looked at her and said, "How do you know this stuff?" She's like, "Well, my mom's been on the board for 10 years, so I've lived this." So actually tomorrow morning, I am, among other things, getting on the train, and I'm going to go down and talk with her class about being on a school board. So it's like, I like the fact that I've gotten an opportunity to spread the joy of our board because we are like no other. So.
And Phil, if I could add something to that also. Mike, you said that no one could convince you, that no one could convince you that this is not a thankless job, as you were thanking us. As when we talk to our community members, when we talk to staff, when we talk to teachers, they all say it's a thankless job and turn around and thank us. The appreciation we've received here tonight, that we receive throughout the years, whether it's just a couple of years or from when the school was district was founded, Phil, is just truly incredible. And we appreciate that as well. So thank you for all you guys do. And we do this because we love it.
So I've been on this board second to Phil. He's really the senior board member, and I'm the young kid compared to him. But throughout my tenure here, it's really been quite a journey. And I have to say, having attended 24 school board conferences and listened to people at the tables and having discussions, that this school board is quite an extraordinary group of people, and singularly focused on the kids and trying always to do the best job possible by the kids. And I'm thankful that I've been here. I appreciate everybody's hard work. I appreciate the efforts that everybody makes to make this a better school district. And I have to say that Mike and the new team that you brought in has been a fabulous addition to District 21. You know, we've always made the effort to involve the community in things we do, and you've expanded that in ways of reaching out to be sure the community is part of major decisions we make. And it's an extraordinary effort, I think, that staff makes and that this board makes, to be out there and listening to people and listening to staff and listening to parents. So thank you for all you do. We sure appreciate it.
Okay, moving on to the second item under staff communication, budget implementation update.
Actually, before he goes, I've got two things to jump in there real quickly. The first is that we wanted to acknowledge just a tremendous partnership that we have in service to our students of need. And so we have really two that we want to highlight. First is the Rotary Club of Wheeling, and second is the Target on Lake Cook Road. For a number of years, the Rotary Club of Wheeling has provided us with grant funding to purchase winter coats for students in need. They have continued that support this year with a grant of $2,000. The new element of the program, however, this year was our partnership with Target on Lake Cook Road. Valerie, who's the store director at the Wheeling Target, really went above and beyond. We were able to purchase 150 coats in a variety of color and style at a deeply, deeply discounted rate. In addition, Target contributed an additional $500 to the purchase. So we just wanted to take a moment to really recognize Valerie and her staff and the Target store, as well as the Wheeling Rotary. And it's just it's a fantastic ability to make sure that our kids are warm as they're coming back and forth to school as it is going to snow tomorrow. It is timely. The second announcement that I'd like to make, and this is absolutely bittersweet, but I wanted to announce that our Cara Beach is going to be moving on professionally. Cara has gotten an enormous opportunity to advance her career. She will be taking over as the lead of the communications team over at the Williamsburg. Say again? Jane City. I know it wasn't just Williamsburg, but the Williamsburg Jane City County School District in Virginia. So Cara they approved her appointment on Tuesday evening. And so she's going to be transitioning out of her role here and into the new role in Virginia. And they are very lucky to have you coming. We're going to miss you very much. But still, I can't be more thrilled for the opportunity that you have in front of you. Cara will be with us through the end of the calendar year before she starts her new adventure. And she'll be selling a house here and, moving life. And yeah, so exciting times ahead for you, but we really thank you so much. Congratulations. And we won't say goodbye yet because you'll be here next year. So.
But even with that, I think a hearty congratulations from our entire group.
Absolutely. And you still have to send baby pictures because that's the way it goes. I'm sold in now, so. No problem. All right.
I can't see you very clearly tonight, Cara, but as I mentioned in a note to you earlier today, your sunny disposition has been certainly welcome to some of the events and situations that we've had to deal with over the last 7 or 8 years that you've been part of this organization. So we'll miss that, but we certainly wish you well. Okay, Michael, now we get to the real fun stuff.
And I have the clicker tonight, which means when you turn your presentation in early, you actually get to do this instead of control it on your own. So that's good. Thank you, Tyler. This is a really nice point for us to check in on the budget. We're a third of the way through the fiscal year as of October 31st. As you know, our year is July 1 through June 30th. And in the state of Illinois, they don't make you pass your final budget until September, even though you've been spending for 3 months. So, we cross our fingers, make sure that everything's going well. And then we get to this point, we check and we go, whew, no, I'm kidding. A lot of hard work through the staff. Melissa Morghese, my Director of Business Services, is integral in making sure the day-to-day budget is followed and carried out. And then obviously my staff in the business office, the administration, all the way down teachers, teacher aides, everybody that spends or has a need, their responsibility is what makes us go to the place that we've been over the last few years, which is a very healthy financial position. So without further ado, just some important assumptions and information that goes into this. Salaries and benefits being the most important, knowing that that's the biggest driver of our budget, about 85% of that. Those are updated in this presentation through October 31st through that payroll. Additional employees are hired as needed as we go through. All of the people that were paid through October 31st are in this budget. And then we adjust the budget regularly before we come to you with the final amended budget in the spring, so that we can keep track all through of what we are spending, where we're taking money from and placing it in different locations so that the funds have the appropriate amount of money. As far as expenditures go, we will approve the bids later on in the agenda for the new community service center and administrative building. Those final dollars for the construction will be placed into the budget. The architect and construction manager expenses have been in there, and they're in there through October 31st. And as I said, once those bids are approved, we'll go ahead and update those into the budget. It will affect some of the numbers, but we'll still have a projected surplus as it stands right now. And then finally, with the revenues, we have some really exciting news that isn't in the budget yet and that will make its way into the budget. One, we just were notified by FEMA that we are going to get roughly $129,000 of our expenses from last year back. In a huge move, Mike Frantini secured through the Emergency Connectivity Fund a $1.9 million grant to pay for staff laptops, Chromebooks, some of the leases that we have on those, the connectivity from the hotspots. Huge money for the district, which will take us through 2 to 3 fiscal years of payments, and that money comes back to the budget. Our shield testing, just the fact that we've taken it over, there is some offset to the cost for taking it over that we'll see, and Kim's team was great in securing that. And then as Bill talked about earlier, the property tax refund recapture, we were supposed to know those numbers by now, but they gave themselves till November 15th, which is Monday. So hopefully we will know what that line item is. So that's additional revenue as well. The additional revenue that we're seeing, we're putting into kind of a holding fund in Fund 10, seeing if there's an emergency use for it this year, and other things that we may need it for. So those are some of the big things that have been happening since the start of the year.
Can we say congratulations to Mike? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Job well done.
I don't know if Michael has approved it yet, Mike, but you can have 2 coffee cups.
That's generous, but okay. Looking at the budget performance snapshot that we have, these are some of the analytics we get from Forecast 5, and this is a year-to-date on the revenue by source up at the top right, and year-to-date expenditures by object. The left and right bars, the left bar, the darker one is the actual amount that we have received for the year, and the lighter one is the trend amount, which is what we expect to receive. Bill's point on property taxes about the collections that we may see in the future is spot on. Last year, as you see, we collected more money, and that's why the trend is that as that is in July and August, because bills were out earlier. This year they came out later, and you see the actual collection amount came September, October. So depending on when bills come out, when they make them due, that clearly impacts what our revenue looks like. And being again that the property taxes, much like salary and benefits, are the big driver of our budget, we do keep an eye on that. Our fiscal position now would withstand a couple rounds of some late funding, but we're interested to see where the assessor goes with this moving forward, because that could have a large impact on the overall budget of many school districts. Right now, we're in great shape. So as far as expenditures go, you see, we typically meet the trend amount each year, and that's because we budget for our actual expenditures with, hopefully some cushion. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't, but as you see, we basically have met that expectation all year. Interesting fact, again, on those collection of property taxes, month-to-date revenue is up by $24 million as far as the trend, because again, we got so much money in October because the bills were payable later. But as you see in the total year-to-date numbers, we're still at that point, and we knew we would have about a $10.5 million surplus at this stage of the game because we haven't put the construction bids in yet. Once the bids come in and we put the schedule for spending, that surplus will come down some, but there'll still be a surplus. And as far as expenditures go, we're basically right on trend year to date. We're minus 300,000 from where we thought we'd be. So we're doing really well as far as our budget goes thus far. And, we've done a lot of adapting as we've gone through with staff, with supplies, things like that. So it's a true testament to the staff overall on the responsibility that they do fiscally on a daily basis. Looking at the next set of charts is just some basic graphs on where we are revenue-wise. The important ones are at the top. As you see, year to date, we were projected to be at about 41.62% of our revenues at this point of the year. We're almost at 45%, so we're trending ahead of the game. Local sources are ahead, and state sources are ahead as well. So it shows that the money has been coming in regularly, something that in the past in Illinois has been an issue. The last couple of years has been a very pleasant surprise that we have not had those issues. When you go revenues by source on the right side middle, and then revenues by source, the right side lower, the difference is prior year to date versus current year to date up top. You see those are very consistent. Prior year is on the left, current year is on the right. And when you look at the projected beneath that, you see that we are over what we thought we would be on the local side right now. That's what's driving us to be ahead. But again, fairly consistent. Nothing that would cause us concern because there's a wild swing at this point of the game. And then I like the chart at the bottom, even though the graphs aren't as large as they could be. Revenues by fund as far as what the budget is, and that's budget for the year, and then what the projected spend is at that point of the year, and then what the actual is at that point. And again, we're a little bit higher in the ed fund, but we've balanced out in other places. That has to do with salaries, just for more people that are there, and then some of our purchase services. We have some positions that are really hard to fill, and we have to spend a little bit more money to go out and get those filled through agencies, but it's nothing that has shaken the overall budget. The next report is a variance report. I think the important thing on this one, this is all about revenue still. It shows when it's to the right of the line, it means that we're ahead of the game. And when it's to the left, it means that we're actually not collecting as much as we thought we would. As you see, we really have done well everywhere but earnings on investments. Our food service revenue is down slightly, but we don't expect that to last because by them extending the food service program as they did, not following all the tenets of the National School Lunch Program, As the year goes on, we think that we will be right there or have a slight surplus in that. And then looking at variances by source, when you go down to the bottom, we're in a favorable position in all of our local, state, and federal money as you go left to right in those colors. And then this next way is just a neat way to see it without bar graphs, to just have the old traditional way of throwing the numbers up on the screen. And it shows us a 4-year trend as well, which is good. And you see, obviously, our property tax revenue has always been strong, but the last couple of years with a positive CPI and new growth on the books, that's why 2021 was so high. We had the TIF revenue come back on. So last year was slightly lower, but not because of any fall in what we collected or what we were owed, just a matter of less on the books and the timing of when things came in. And as you see across the top, our variances are favorable across the board, meaning we are ahead of schedule in our revenues, which that's the most important thing right now. Next, we go to expenditures. And again, really important numbers in that you see in those three to the right at the top, the actual year-to-date expenditures, actual year-to-date salaries, benefits, and actual year-to-date other objects. In all of those, we are, except for salaries and benefits, where we're slightly above, we are below what we expected to spend at this point. And again, 22.69% of the budget for salaries and benefits would have been expended to this point. We're at 23.4. So that extra percent isn't doing anything to create a budget gap that we need to worry about. So I think the good news there is that, again, we're in good shape. And again, looking at prior year, current year in the first graph versus projected year to date and current year to date, we aren't doing anything that is so far out of the range that we would consider it to be something we have to consider or look to pull back spending in other areas. We're staying very consistent with what we typically have. And again, as we reported at the front end, there are some revenue sources that if we were to get into a position where we thought we were off kilter, we can make the decision to use those, or we could go ahead and pull back spending in other areas. Again, the variance report here is interesting. We have more that we have, that we're above the curve on, and then we have some that we have a favorable variance. The supplies and materials have been down this year. We all know why. We haven't had to purchase as many masks, as many disinfectants, as many tools to operate the classrooms to make sure that they were in a good state. So not having to purchase those supplies has helped the budget greatly. That money is still there in the budget, and it also is why we have a large favorable variance. So if we did need something, we have that supply money. We also have the capital outlay money that we haven't spent to date. And again, this is based on the trend and what we foresee, so it shows that we're ahead of schedule. And then again, some old-fashioned type numbers, just the charts going year to year. The one thing we look at is salaries have gone up year to year, and it's something we're cognizant of. Luckily, our revenues have as well, and they've kept pace with what we would expect to be able to keep continuing offering as programs, employees. That is where the unfavorable variance is in the salaries and benefits. Although when you think about it, we've spent over $20 million. We're about $600,000. We're not talking about a huge variance. We're talking about something that is in control, especially given where we've tracked on budgets the last few years, always coming in ahead. So between that and then the purchase services, which, yes, unfavorable, has caused some issues. When you look at the other expenses that we have, and then you look at total, you see that we are still ahead of schedule on expenditures, which puts us in a really good place going forward. So just some conclusions. We have some really favorable items, obviously. We have the additional revenues that we've realized. Grant monies from last year is something I didn't mention up front. The way that cycles work for grant monies are, you file your expenditure reports, you file that last one for the year, but we get the money in the next fiscal year. So we've seen a large uptick. Beatrice and Kim have done a great job of filing their expenditure reports, capturing every dollar. And when they don't capture it, they make sure that it's in a rollover scenario so we get to use it moving forward. We're not losing grant money as we have a few times in the past. The emergency connectivity money, I can't say enough what that means and what a great job Mike Frantini did doing that. And then the shield testing and FEMA dollars are important as well. Spending less money on supplies is always a good thing, as long as they're not needed. And I think we have met the needs of every teacher and every classroom and school going forward. And we hear about it if we don't, and we're happy to do that because we want the kids to have everything that they should. And we haven't had any major unanticipated costs. That's a huge deal. And we've been very fortunate for the time that I've been here, and I know the last couple of years that Mary was here, to foresee some of the things that we might have not seen in the past, so that we could plan for them and make sure we had money, whether it was in a contingency or in reserve, to go ahead and cover those. Our only potential issues that I see is, and this is always the case, FTE count sustainability, just because we want to make sure as we move forward, we make reasonable decisions on salaries and benefits. But important in Illinois is the availability of those employees as well. And as we have a downturn in the availability, obviously there are adjustments that may have to be made. So we just want to keep an eye on FTEs and what that pool is that's out there. And then obviously right now, nobody really knows the total impact. We know the current impact, but what the future impact of the supply chain and just the impact on costs and materials is. And that's something that we look out for constantly. And it's something we took into consideration too, as we looked at the bids for the building, because those costs weren't going to come back down. And so as we look, we said, this is a good place to be. And as you see from all of this, I think all of the programs that we have are running in the way that they should be. And I think that we'll be able to have these sustainable for years to come. Questions?
Okay. Questions? Really like the comparisons, Michael. The trends. I think that makes a big difference for us to be able to see that. So, okay, if there's no questions, thank you so much.
Impressive report. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is board discussion. Just one real quick thing, and I'm not looking for complete answers on this. Last month I brought it up very briefly. I just would like to get some type of a general reaction to the concept of having a student rep sit in on the public part of our sessions, not obviously on closed session, where that information is protected. But just in general, the logistics we haven't laid out yet as far as how the person would be selected, or if it would be rotated between the middle schools, or any of that, just the concept. So Stacy, I'll start on my right side.
I don't have an objection. I think it's a great idea. I mean, I think that I personally haven't been involved with some of the students that have participated in board-related activities, whether it's hiring or whatever. And I've just heard from my colleagues what a great experience that was, and the feedback that they got was very mature and enlightening. So I think we can only expect to have that if we do have a student rep for the public portions of the board. So I'm in favor of it.
Okay, Arlen?
Jessica, you and I sat on the committee where we had student input, student involvement, and it blew me away. I remember walking out of those meetings and just saying, these young people really are thoughtful. They're thinking about issues that are way beyond their years. And so I'm very enthused. It's another way for us to reach out to the community, I believe, and to get additional thought, and to show, more importantly, our young people what democracy is all about and how your input can affect the direction of things. So I think it's a marvelous idea, and I support it fully.
I too sat in on some of the sessions where you had the young people with our strategic planning and some of the other stuff. And they do have, there was fascinating insight and commitment, but it goes along with the mission and vision of the district. Really, you're building leadership from within. If you're able to start those conversations and really build that buy-in and trust to the community, then it fits perfectly actually with the tenets that are right behind Dr. Conley. So I think it's a natural progression to the things that we've done. And I think when we talk about strategic planning and strategic partnerships and cultivating leadership, I think that falls right into the tenets that are priorities for us over the next couple years. So I'm a enthusiastic thumbs up.
Thank you, Stacy. Jessica?
Another set of enthusiastic thumbs up. Not only do I think this is a fantastic idea, and I know looking back on my high school and college career, I relished those opportunities to express the student voice with, whatever leaders, whatever school leaders were, whatever the scenario was. One thought I had, and I know where this is, baby steps, but just to plant the seed, I was wondering if instead of having just one student representative, if maybe we could look at, opening it up to a cohort of a couple of student leaders that could, rotate through the meetings. It could potentially lessen the burden on one particular student, but on the upside, it would open the opportunity to more student leaders to see, what working on an amazing board is like, what we actually do. And I think that would give us more varied input as well. And to Arlen's point on the Strategic Plan Commission, hearing all the different students express their viewpoints and watching them, disagree and agree, it broadened the scope of our understanding of the issues. So just an idea I had, but again, great idea, love it, let's do it.
I like the idea. Bill?
You started off by saying there's a number of logistical things to talk about. And I had all kinds of logistical questions, but I'll put them aside for now, including the rotating things like that. I didn't sit in on the meetings that Arlen, you spoke of, and Jessica, you spoke of so well, and you too, Stacy. I'm certainly not against this. I'm not as enthusiastic of thumbs up as everyone else is. I'm curious if there are other districts in the area who have experimented with this and what experience they have, especially K-8 districts. I mean, Jessica, you talked about in high school and college having this type of experience. We're not talking about bringing high school and college students in. I'm certainly not opposed to it. I'd like to hear more about it. I would like to hear other districts' experiences with it and to move forward with the discussion.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Debbie, I was just asking for a general reaction to the idea of having a student representative or representatives, plural, sit in on board meetings as a liaison. Just asking for general feedback.
Having heard everything, I'm sorry, I had to take an urgent phone call. I think it's a great idea because even those of us that do have kids that are in the schools, having our kids aren't going to tell, even as good a relationship we have with the kids, they don't tell us everything. Whereas if we have a liaison, especially from a school that doesn't know us, they're going to be more honest and we'll hear what's happening. And I think it'll give us a better insight of the actual ins and outs of the schools and any problems that they foresee. So I'm definitely all for it.
Okay, thank you all very much. Dr. Conley and I will begin putting some information together. Bill, to your point, seeing what other districts may or may not be doing in this area. I'm not aware that any of our close districts around us have done this, but I may be wrong.
One more comment. Sorry, one more
Stacey,
comment
go
on
ahead.
the issue. I just wanted to say that since we're in a night of appreciation, that I would not consider this if we were some of those districts that are experiencing extreme turbulence and quite frankly, an assault on board members. And I just wanted to say thank you to the parents and the community members who don't agree with us all the time, but are respectful and polite of the process.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good point.
And this can only strengthen that, I think. I mean, I think this is just another tenement. And you're right, we are very lucky compared to some of our even close surrounding districts. And so I think the tone of respectful disagreement is because I think we've tried to approach the parents with respect and understanding. We all don't agree in every corner of our district, we don't agree. But I think because we have set a tone to go at it in a That way it's come back to us most of the time.
Okay, very good. Appreciate the feedback, and we'll begin putting some information together and over the next couple months to do that. Okay. Next item on our agenda is a public comment section, where the board will now receive public comment for up to 3 minutes. Such comments should not include discussion of personnel matters, which should be brought directly to the attention of the appropriate school official. Mr. Frantini, is there anybody online?
There is not.
Ms. Cara, is there anybody from your end?
No, no comments.
Letitia, does any of our public sitting here wish to talk to us?
No comments.
Welcome, Sherry, though. Welcome. I missed that at the beginning. Mike, there's a letter that's in front of me. Would you?
This is actually going to be for the public hearing on e-learning
Oh,
day, so
okay.
we'll get to that in just a little
Okay.
bit.
So that's it. Very good. Next item on our agenda then is a consent agenda. As we go through this, we had 5 FOIA requests, nothing out of the ordinary. There's no travel expenses this month. And I did review with Melissa the various check runs, and I didn't have anything to report back of a questionable nature to the board. So the chair will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
And prior to that, I just want to make one note for reasons of public recitation. Item J, that is a resolution approving a general release of claims agreement with Deidre O'Brien. That's all.
Oh, that wasn't, okay, thank you. With that addition, thank you,
Second,
thank you. Jessica?
Bill?
Aye.
Oh, Bill?
Aye.
I vote yes. Stacy Allen?
yes.
Debbie?
Yes,
Phil?
now it's you.
Now it's you.
No, it's you, Phil.
Oh. Well, I thought the chair had 2 votes.
Just one.
Okay, aye,
Arlen?
Aye.
Stacy?
Yes.
Motion carries.
thank you. Pardon me while I turn pages. Next item, I believe we go into our e-learning program. Thank you. And I believe we do have to recess to go into the public hearing. May I have a motion, please?
Second,
Jess?
I vote yes. Stacy Allen?
yes.
Debbie?
Yes,
Phil?
Aye.
Arlen?
Aye.
Stacy?
Yes.
Bill?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Presentation?
Yes, so we have a brief presentation for our e-learning plan. This is relatively new. A couple years back, the Illinois state law provided districts with the opportunity to file an e-learning plan that would be used in areas of emergency closure. So for inclement weather or for some other type of emergency closure, given that, school was still able to be operated. So, a district-wide power outage would probably not meet the standard of being able to do an e-learning day. But if the conditions allow for engagement in remote learning, then we would be able to hold a valid day of attendance, even if students were not physically present in the building. And so I have a very short slide deck that kind of just gives an overview of our emergency e-learning day plan. Obviously, this is very similar in intent, maybe a little bit different in scope from the remote learning plan that was filed at the beginning of the COVID pandemic. Go ahead. So legally required elements of the e-learning day plan are that there's just some highlights here. That we need to be able to verify at least 5 clock hours of instructional or school learning activities in a given day that a student is participating in an e-learning day. need to have a plan to ensure access from home or another appropriate remote facilities for students participating. Our one-to-one program for K through 8, as well as our efforts with providing Wi-Fi hotspots and so on and so forth that we have undertaken since the beginning of the pandemic certainly meets the expectation of the state in that manner. Ensuring that where there are electronic materials that need to be made available to students who didn't have access to the required technology, that is available. Now, temporarily, anybody who was not able to participate on that day because their computer broke down or whatever the case may be, they do have 5 days once we get them the materials to be able to do that and have that count towards their attendance on that particular day. So just a couple of those major highlights for the overall requirements of the state. If you go ahead to the next. Again, this is much less new than what it once was when we first had this discussion, I want to say in 2019.
Yep.
And there was some question about our, whether or not this was the way we should go. This has been battle tested now for, a full school year. This is something that I think everybody is very comfortable with. And again, so I'm not going to go through specifics to read the slide to you, but you can just see the kind of the overview of the various portions of our e-learning plan that really do ensure that we are meeting the legal expectations of the state. So with that, I will answer any questions that the board may have or any members of the public may have.
Is there, I think first we need to go to the public. Sherry, do you have any questions on the e-learning program? And our YouTube is not available for public comment at this point. So now we can go to board questions, I believe.
Okay.
Bill?
2 clarifications for anybody in the audience who might be currently or watching it later on YouTube. The only person to make the call for an e-learning day, would be you, Mike?
Correct.
And is there a limit on the number of e-learning days that can be called in a school year?
We carry 5 emergency days on each school year's calendar. If we were to get into a situation where we needed to exceed those 5 emergency days, whether they be e-learning days or not, we would be consulting with the state and looking at, some kind of an act of God exemption. I would need to go back into the code and give you a direct answer as to if there's a limitation to the number of days, because it does count as a day of student attendance. So I don't know exactly, but again, everybody has to carry 5 emergency days.
Okay, thank you.
Is it only you or your designee that can make that call?
I mean, technically, it's me or my designee. If I'm out of pocket, then I can designate that. But generally speaking, that would not be the case. It would be me.
Okay. Arlen?
Thank you. Well, as you alluded to, you came to us with a remote learning plan a year before the pandemic. And so I think we were better prepared than a lot of districts, probably most districts in the state. So thank you for that. I did have a couple of quick questions, and I'm not clear. I think Bill alluded to it, but under what circumstances would this kick in? Would we use it for any snow day or only if we exceed the 5 snow days?
No, this would be, if I were to judge it unsafe, conditions for students to be in attendance during a weather event. Doesn't necessarily, but let's say snow day.
Yeah.
We would utilize this as opposed to a snow day. And so when you use a traditional snow day where neither are there remote learning activities happening, nor are kids in attendance physically, you have to make that day up at the end of the school year. Right. So by utilizing this e-learning, it is considered a full day of student attendance. We would not need to access an emergency day under the calendar.
So my concern on that is we know that certain students probably are penalized more by remote learning than others, kids with IEPs in certain cases and so forth. With a snow day, the day carries over, as you just said, and would be used at the end of the school year so that that student would actually have in-person learning. I just am reticent to use remote learning unless absolutely necessary.
Well, we're not going to be
Because
using
of
it. I understand.
Yeah.
We're not going to be using it unless absolutely necessary. If there's an inch of snow on the ground, I'm not declaring a remote learning day. The conditions need to be such that there is an inherent safety issue by my judgment. And certainly this is also something that all area superintendents, I mean, at 3 a.m., we're on the phone with each
I know,
other.
yeah.
Making these determinations, and we really try and make sure that we're making them regionally, and only when they are truly necessary. So, the standard remains the same in terms of whether or not we're in person or remote. In some ways, I'm opening myself up to a little bit more criticism because people are like, oh, it's fine, just let's do a distance learning day. And I'm going to say no, because roads are fine and we can get, the buses are moving, and so kids need to get here. So
Right.
this is not going to be a situation where it's going to be an easier call to make because we'll just do a remote day. The
But
other thing, if I can just,
Yeah, sure, go.
we have 18-month track record of doing this on almost a daily basis, right? I am very confident in the staff's ability to meet the needs of all students. And I think if you look at the plan, we also have those contingencies to where, particularly for those students who have related services needs, if they cannot be met on that particular day for that reason, they will be met when the kids are back. And one of the things, and I understand the argument around, you get an extra day at the end. I don't know how useful that extra day at the end of the year is, because it still is a cessation of school activity at a given date. And kind of, people are done. Grades are being issued, things of that nature. So in terms of quality, I am much, much more comfortable with the quality of the work that students are going to be doing, the guidance that they're going to be receiving in a remote day, than I would be at tacking a day on the end of the school year.
Okay. And then my other question is, how do we monitor and verify electronic participation? It's a challenge for teachers, is it not?
Well, actually, we're pretty well practiced at that as well. We have embedded within our systems, we have multiple ways of tracking attendance and engagement. If you kind of dive into the plan a little bit, there's a series of check-ins that teachers are doing, tracking engagement through our through Seesaw, through Google Classroom, so on and so forth. There is a parental aspect of checking in. So there's multiple ways that we are establishing attendance because we need to do that for the state.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and so that is nothing different than what we were doing the entire time that we were on remote learning.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I have a motion to adjourn.
Actually, we do have one public comment
Oh,
that was submitted via email that we do need to read into the record. So I'll go ahead and read that. For the record, this is from Nicole Ouimet. Good evening. Unfortunately, I am unable to make an in-person public comment as I will be attending the Board of Education meeting in the district that my children attend. I would like the board to reconsider the classified expectations general work plans, example 1. Employees who are required to be on site due to maintenance, cleaning, technology support, and potential snow removal will have timing and expectations communicated to them via normal channels before and on the date of the emergency event. Standard operating procedures will remain in place for this group of employees. This is being read from the a portion of the plan that was presented. When an e-learning day was used in 2020-2021 school year, some, not all, custodial and maintenance employees came into work that day to remove snow. For example, night custodians stay home while head custodians came in to remove snow. The custodial and maintenance personnel who came into work on that e-learning day were not paid overtime, even though the CBA says custodial and maintenance employees who are required to be at work when the district is otherwise closed due to weather conditions will be paid at a rate of 2 times regular pay. When the union was asked to inquire about this, the eventual response was that the district was not closed. Some employees were able to do their jobs from home, while others had to come into work to complete their jobs. If the weather and other circumstances are deemed too dangerous to attend work or school in person for staff and students, then the personnel who are asked to come drive on dangerous roads to work should be compensated for this, as the contract states. This was an agreement made between employees, administration, and the Board of Education. By not paying custodial and maintenance at a rate of 2 times regular pay, it is breaking the CBA. Furthermore, I believe in the wording of the e-learning plan should state, employees who are required to be on site due to maintenance, cleaning, technology support, and potential snow removal will have timing and expectations communicated to them via normal channels before and on the date of the emergency event. Per the CBA, custodial and maintenance employees who are required to be at work when the district is implementing an e-learning day or otherwise closed due to weather conditions will be paid at a rate of 2 times regular pay. Thank you. Once again, that was from Nicole Wimet.
Okay.
And we have no other comment.
I'm sorry?
We don't have any other comments, I don't believe. Do we have anything else?
Nope.
No, okay.
Okay. So, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn our public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Jess?
Stacy Allen,
Yes.
Debbie,
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
Arlen,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion carries.
Thank you. The last item is the actual approval of the e-learning program. Be it resolved, Board of Education approves the e-learning plan as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion. Any further discussion on the program? Seeing none? Jess?
Debbie,
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
Arlen,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Bill,
Aye.
I vote yes. Stacy,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. We now move into new business. And we're going to consider and hopefully approve the construction bids for our new building.
So they're present, in the packet is presented. We don't have a formal presentation on that,
Oh,
so
okay.
unless there are questions, you can proceed.
Everybody had a chance to review the materials in the packet? Does anyone have any questions for Mike or Michael on Bill?
Of course. For what it's worth, I did advise Michael this question is coming. We've been given presentations on this project for a number of months now. There is a differential between earlier estimates and these final plans, and I thought it would be beneficial for Michael to explain the differential.
You trying to join me?
Whoa, yeah. We get a group deal. As I talked to Bill earlier today, obviously, when we came to the board in March, that was the very inception of the start of the plan. We had been looking at this since June of last year, Mike and I, looking at plans. The Finance Committee saw it in November. The first real estimate came in March. That was before any architectural drawings, official drawings had been made, before we went ahead and looked at any of the conditions that would cost additional money. The village wanted some aesthetic things that go along with what the zoning in the village is that did raise the price. It also made the building more aesthetically pleasing. The boardroom, because of the size of it, we added what's called a clerestory. It took me a long time to figure that name out, so I'm proud to say it clearly tonight. It's a raised roof so that the room actually has the size so that everybody doesn't feel cramped. We added, to avoid injuries for our employees, a stairwell from the top floor to the roof so that we could get equipment up there rather than using cranes or the submarine type ladders to get there. We did add a second elevator because we thought for traffic flow that was important. So there are a number of things once you start designing and building that go into it. And then, as you know, the general conditions of construction right now between supply chain and supply costs, we went ahead and bore some additional costs. It's not that far out of line with what our initial estimate was when you look at what the 42,558 square foot building was. And I do think that we had a very competitive bid process. As I said, my recommendation, this initial estimate for March, when we went to the 50% estimate, went up to over $17.7 million. And the 95% estimate, meaning when the drawings were at 95%, was at about $18.3 million. So our total construction costs, when you figure in items like contingencies and other items, the reimbursables that we will not spend all of, because again, new building, we won't be finding asbestos, we won't be finding conditions that we see in typical renovation projects, brings us down closer to about $17 million, which is about 8 to 10% over what the initial bid was, which is much better than we did back in 2019 and even in 2020. So I'm very pleased in this market with the bids, but I understand what Bill's saying, and I think it is important to stress to everybody that we did sharpen our pencils. We did 4 alternates that we think were necessary to add to the building. We did take out some things that we thought would have been nice, but we did not think were necessary. Some tile in bathrooms and some other things. So I think it's a very responsible bid package and one that I'm very proud to recommend.
Thank you. Bill, any other questions?
No, we had this discussion before. I'm very happy with the response. In fact, I'm happy enough, I'll move the motion to accept it.
Can I-
think this is well done.
Yeah,
Well,
I also,
Before you go there, since there's a motion on the floor, do I have a second? Stacy, second.
okay.
All right.
So I also think anybody following construction knows what's going on right now. So I also agree that it was a good bid process. But for the record, because I continue to get asked the question, how much are my taxes going up? And if you would just one more time explain how we're doing this for the record without raising taxes.
And real quick to your first point, I give Archon and Nicholas Construction a ton of credit because they looked to use materials and limit the use of materials that would cost money. We limited the amount of structural steel we need to keep the price down and to make sure we weren't going to have supply chain issues. So it is great to work with an architect and a construction manager that truly have the best interests of the districts at heart and look to save money. As for how we're paying for this, as we've said before, there are no property tax enhancements that will be made to people's bills. This has all come from what are called debt certificates. It's a financial instrument that does not allow for local property taxes to be used to pay for it. We have basically guaranteed those funds with our fund balance, but over a 15-year period that is payable at any time if we so choose. So property taxes will not go up. We'll be using our reserves, our general state aid, any other state or federal sources that we get. And we are pursuing, as you know, state and federal sources to help out with this, especially on the federally qualified health center aspect. So property taxes will not be affected. This doesn't affect our debt service at all because of the way that we pledge the dollars. So thanks for asking that.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael.
And it should be noted that for this reason, taxes to our community members will not go up.
Correct.
They may go up for other
Well,
reasons, of course, but not
Illinois.
because of this project.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, Jessica?
Phil,
Aye?
Arlen,
Aye.
Stacy,
Yes.
Bill,
Aye.
I vote yes. Stacy,
Yes.
Debbie,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you very much. This is a big day
It is a big day.
that moves us forward. Now it becomes really the reality of the situation presents itself, and we look forward to our groundbreaking
Yeah.
exercise whenever that is set to be announced, and we move forward. Next item, 1-year contract extension for our bus service.
Again, unless there are any
Commentary?
questions, we can move forward.
Nope,
Sorry.
it's a good deal.
Okay. Seeing none, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Jess?
Harlan,
Aye.
Stacy,
Yes.
Bill,
Aye.
I vote yes. Stacy Allen,
Yes.
Debbie,
Yes.
Phil,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank. Before I even said aye, that's wonderful.
She knows what time it is.
Just
I mean,
kidding,
you
I'm
know.
just kidding.
She knows I want to get out of here
Yeah.
tonight.
Are there any announcements? Anybody from the board? Arlen?
I do have one. Pleased to report, and Deb, I don't know if you heard, but the Village of Arlington Heights voted 9-0 approving the move of Shelter Inc. to a new home in Arlington Heights. And very, very exciting. The staff is very excited. And that program will be minutes from here, actually. Not that the students, they'll be in high school and college, but it's very, very exciting, and we're delighted at how Arlington Heights reacted to Shelter Inc.
Yes.
Positive state, positive
And I
comment.
did.
Yeah.
Did want to just mention regarding I attended the online, the webinars for the delegate discussions. They basically read the packet. So it was, for most of us, it was just a repeating of everything that we read ourselves. It was an hour of my life that I won't get back each time. The only thing is voting will be done via an app that if you were on there, you were told about it, we were shown how to do it. I have it downloaded. You will not, they have increased the bandwidth for that room. It's in a larger room. There will be no guests. It'll only be delegates and staff that are working it. Larger room, so we'll have more space between us. And you will be given a password there to sign into the app. So
Okay.
if you have to be in attendance, because that was a big worry of mine, of people downloading the app and figuring out how to do it. No, you do still have to be in attendance. So we will see how it works. It's going to be an interesting, because there was no discussion on anything. So we weren't allowed to ask questions. So it may be a very interesting assembly.
So they're not doing a closed circuit for guests, for visitors or anything?
They did not say anything about a closed circuit for people in another room.
It's the first time in my experience that
They
they have
may.
not allowed even a minimum number
Right.
of guests.
But they
That's interesting.
want to be able to spread people out
Yeah.
as much, and COVID precautions. So it will be interesting. And then there's going to be a questionnaire afterwards for all of us to fill out, so we can
Okay,
determine what changes they need to be made. But the voting will be faster and smoother because it'll be recorded right away.
Mhm.
But there's going to be some hiccups along the way for a couple of years, I think.
should be quite the experience, Bill.
Yeah.
Debbie, I hope that they count the number of people in the room, because it's not going to be too hard for somebody to email a password to a person in a different district and
Yeah,
have a.
but
So I hope they have a count of the number of people there, so they know the vote matches the total count.
yeah,
It's gonna be weird.
it's going to be, they've thought of a lot of things, but I'm sure there's a lot that they haven't.
Well, it'll be an interesting experience.
Yes, it will.
Okay, the next board meeting of our Board of Education is the second Thursday, December 9th, 2021, again in this room, again at 7 PM start time, assuming that I'm not at a doctor's office somewhere. And may I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second.
Jess?
Phil,
Aye?
Debbie,
Yes.
I vote yes. Stacy Allen,
Yes.
Arlen,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Stacy,
Yes.
motion carries.